In this episode, we're looking at a real e-commerce challenge with Lotte Bongaerts, our business team lead at Fight Club, and Rory Flynn, founder of Systematic AI and AI strategist from New York. They'll explore how AI can transform thousands of product SKUs into conversion-optimized visuals across every channel. Using a pet shop case study, they'll show how automation meets creativity to drive real results. Here is Lotte and Rory.
Welcome, everyone. We're here today with Pact, our new podcast from Fight Club, a performance agency based in Antwerp and Breda. I'm here today with Rory Flynn, who's obviously well-known in the world, in the industry, basically, as the best AI manufacturer, right? That's what I've heard. Like, that's what everyone's been telling me, actually, before I got here today. Like, so we need to see Rory. Like, he's the go-to guy. My name is Lotte Bongaerts, and I'm here as your host today from Fight Club. I'm a business lead here in Antwerp, and I'm just so excited to talk to you today about e-commerce.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to talk about it also. It's my background. So
yes.
Yeah.
Well, you said actually earlier when we were talking a little bit earlier. So I was talking about e-commerce earlier because we have this interesting client case that I wanted to look into a little bit deeper with you.
Sure.
So there's this pet store that we work for, and what we've done is, because of course e-commerce, they have like a gazillion different SKUs, and trying to make them look a little bit nice, trying to make them look like they actually are not as boring as they look, especially when it comes to pet stuff, right? I mean, you can already imagine like a little basket and it's just sitting there, right? And so what we've done is we've created this kind of feed where it automatically puts all of the products in a specific like image with a cat or a dog, and it's got different breeds and they're playing around. And I'm a big pet lover, so I know you have a dog, right?
Yes.
So anyways, so it looks really cute, and they're even optimized according to what the season is. So for example, like Halloween, your cat wearing a cat cape. I think that's cool.
Perfect.
Or your dog can have like a Santa suit. Though I feel like it's weird when you dress up dogs. It's
Funny.
Some people love it.
It's funny.
Yeah.
You know, every time you see a dog that has like a face, it's where it's unamused, and you see people that are just having too much fun. Dogs just like, I don't like this anymore. I laugh, but I feel them.
Yes. Yes. Like my cat can also just look at me and be like, I am unamused by you, human. But I mean, yeah, it's really. But anyways, my question to you to start off today is, so obviously we have automated this process, but it's about creativeness as well. So when creativity meets automation, how can e-commerce brands turn their data into visual stories that actually convert?
Totally.
Because you want to also bring in the data and want to understand what works, what doesn't work, and how can you really, how can e-commerce brands turn that into a visual story that converts?
Totally. I think it's all based on data, right? Like everything sort of we do in e-com is just optimization focused, whether that's CRO or performance marketing on the front end to drive traffic or retention on the back end. So I think a lot of times, what we were doing was just sort of visually analyze. A lot of stuff that we focused on and like early on in the process was on the analysis portion of things, but also on the performance side. So whatever was typically working on the front end was also working on the back end.
Okay.
So, if we had a bunch of winning ads and a lot of them, were certain breeds of dogs, or they were in certain colors, or they were certain sort of compositions, however we might be able to visually analyze that, we'd translate that onto the website and into the retention space also. So sort of like full funnel approach to utilizing just as a testing ground, that front end performance side of things, where it's sort of interesting because then you start to end up, as I can say this with a bit of caution, you end up with, you realize that things that have always worked will always work, and there's never sort of any variance from that. So you have to build in like a level of randomness to it, or sort of ask in terms of the automation to have like a level of randomness or creativity baked in. That's not just use only data. Because if you do that, everything sort of starts to look and feel exactly the same.
Exactly. Because it immediately brought me to my next question, because, everyone's always talking about data-driven marketing and few talk about creative-driven data. So how do you see AI bridging those two worlds? Because you do indeed want to make sure that it doesn't always look like the exact same thing again and again and again.
Totally. I think it's just a constant cycling of different ideas and sort of testing, right? Like from the performance side of it, I think about we have to always sort of find new angles, because you can use the same angles. You can have repetitive sort of like copycat type creative that has been seen a million times before. We're all guilty of it. We've seen something that works and somewhat innovate off of it, right? But it's always that cycle of like, how do we keep testing to optimize? And then once we optimize, we can start to really drive performance.
Okay.
But again, you have to take shots on goal for that to happen. So you have to sort of marry what you're getting inbound to a level of creative that will fit your audience, but also you sometimes need to skew a little bit outside of your customer to see if that goes somewhere, or else you'll never find any sort of growth opportunities. You'll just sort of hit the same exact people all the time. Maybe that's the goal. Maybe that's not. But assuming for growth and performance, that's what people are looking for.
And how can you can you give like an example of something that you've really done where you saw like, okay, this is starting to look similar again and again and again, and we really need to come up with like new ideas?
Yeah.
How do you go about that? Like, do you do like a brainstorm or what is it?
Well, typically we're taking the performance data, whether that be on the front or the back end, whether that's again like from a Facebook Meta side of things, or whether that's on our Klaviyo accounts or email accounts that we're using. A lot of times it's kind of influenced branding and brand guidelines, which is odd enough because we're able to produce at such volume and run so much creative that we'd sort of see like, brand guidelines say this, but performance says otherwise, which is always like the tales all the time, right?
One of my biggest questions and problems.
Brand versus performance. This makes it even more polarized.
Yeah.
Right. So I think there's like a way to then marry that. It's like, how do we either work within the brand guidelines to sort of get a little bit more creative, or sort of like have that conversation as to, this is what's catching people's eye. This is what's just driving performance. So either we take sort of that liberty, and maybe we've definitely revamped entire brands by just understanding, because of volume of testing and data into the market, that this performs way better visually than this does. So, sometimes it's hard to a lot of brands, they have to be open to something like that.
And very often they just aren't.
Yep.
Like, because that's also, the struggle that I have, because obviously I'm very client facing in my role. And so often I have like this real life case scenario that I had like just 2 weeks ago. So I have a client and they make their own visuals, because we used to try and do it for them, but we made performance-driven visuals, and they were like, no, it has to be on brand. It has to be like, picture perfect.
Of course.
And they were like, no, we're going to do it in-house. I'm like, okay, fine. But recently we were doing a campaign for them, and it was like the first layers of the funnel were fine, but then really the bottom of the funnel just was not working. It was just not working. And I told them like, okay, it needs to have more like that sense of urgency. We need to see that. And they were like, oh. And I could tell, I could see it on her face. No, she's not. This is not registering. And I was like, okay, I'll send you an example. And then I went to my guy to like, get an example. And he was like, I don't want to work for them anymore because they've shot down all of my ideas in the past.
Makes sense.
Makes sense. Totally makes sense. But we still needed to get the visual, right? And he made up a mock-up in the end, something very like simple. And then of course the client understood. And so I'm trying to like coax them together, like my guy on the one hand who doesn't want to work for them anymore, and my client on the other hand who's like, who really wants to be educated, but it needs to go in steps, right? You can't just go full frontal, let's go into the performance side, because it doesn't work.
It doesn't work, and it's hard to change minds and to change sort of the mentality on a lot of this stuff. I think, I have a very different perspective, because initially I'm very retention focused, so a lot of my stuff comes from bottom of funnel.
Okay.
But I've always seen it as a vector versus like a marketing tool. Like, you can't buy anything from an email. You have to go back to the website, right? So it was always like, how do we get people from an email to the website as quick as humanly possible?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter what they read on that email. They can't purchase anything there in that space. They have to go back. So that was often sort of like like our entry point into saying like, let's get a little bit more creative on the email side, because number one, it's low leverage and it's low risk, because oftentimes if you're sending something that's going to a promotions inbox, no one is going back to that promotional email. Like, you've never gone. I ask them all the time, I'm talking to my clients, I'm like, when was the last time you went to a promotional email from 3 days ago? They're like, never. I'm like, good. That's what's going to happen with us too. You have like an 8-hour window. It lives there for a very small amount of time, and move on to the next thing. And I'm also, tell them, what is the last email marketing campaign you remember from your inbox? And Do you have an idea?
Yeah, I do actually. The last one that I really, really remember, because I thought it was really clever, actually.
Yeah.
So I like the brand Levi's.
Okay.
And I've been following them for a couple of years. Like, I subscribed to their newsletter, and they sent me an email at a certain point. Or actually, no, I started noticing that they weren't emailing me as much anymore. And then suddenly I got an email, and it was them saying, we've not been emailing you as much anymore because we saw that you haven't really been opening them. And we just wanted to let you know that if you want to up your frequency again, you can. But if not, then we're just going to like slowly taper down. And I was like, what? No, I still want these.
Look at that.
I still do not open them.
Of course.
I still do.
But you still want them.
But I don't want them. But in the end, I do want them.
Yes.
So, and because they were taking it away, I was like, no, just give me them.
But look at that. That's a little like sunset flow right there that they put in as an automation based on probably a lot of data that's typically around if someone hasn't opened for 90 days, then most likely they're going to either unsubscribe or never open again.
Yeah.
So let's take our last couple shots here.
And I liked it actually because I thought it was so honest and refreshing. And I liked that they noticed that I wasn't opening it anymore, and then they changed like how often they sent me. And I thought that was just nice.
Well, it's not to get too heavy on the email side, but I think it's always interesting because that's another performance metric that people potentially don't overlook. Like when you're looking at something on the email side, if you have just a large amount of non-openers, right?
True.
It's probably mostly because either one, you have the wrong audience, or two, you have the wrong strategy. But number three, it also skews your metrics. So if you've got just a really big list and you just keep growing your list and you never clean it, never trim it, if your metrics are never true, like you might just have a bunch of people that would have never opened. So you never know what your open rates are. You never really know how true your click-through rates are.
Yeah.
Probably adjusting strategy based on just flawed data.
Mm-hmm.
So, things like that helps because that auto, that will basically sunset people, and you'll go into the different section where you're not getting sent stuff, so they can get a truer read on who's actually going to buy. But again, we like to use all of the AI tools for data like that. That was really important for us. That was really one of the first places we use it from an analytics standpoint.
Yeah.
Was to build email automation.
Okay.
Figuring out sort of what clients purchased, in what sequence, how long it would take them.
The whole customer journey, basically.
Entire customer journey, mapping that out, and then applying automation based on sort of like the lowest common denominator of those actions. So it was really, really helped our email marketing performance because of that. But, not to get too crazy down that hole, I could talk about email marketing for...
Me too, because I used to do email marketing a lot, and specifically marketing automation. And I thought it was just so much fun always to like kind of see, this is where they're dropping off. This is where they're no longer interested. And, let's make some better content, because content is key for all of this stuff. And it's actually like one of my next questions as well is about... because when you're creating content, when you're having performance marketing campaigns, obviously your visuals are super key. But I'm also wondering, what are some of the things that AI can optimize within that? Because your visual is a part of your content to drive people in. What is it exactly of the different elements that AI can optimize? Is it just like the color scheme, or is it like the copy, and how does it do that? And can it also work depending on the language it's in? Because obviously we're here in Belgium. We have 3 official languages. That sometimes makes things a little bit trickier to advertise. Also for clients where, we're just in Europe, where you have lots of different languages. So for me, that's definitely like a question, like what are some of the different things that we can adapt there?
Like totally localization on that sense. I mean, like even from a, if we're talking about this from a more macro level, like AI can help on the localization side, like taking things that have worked, if you're a global brand and siphoning them down into more of a local market, or the opposite can be true. Local can go global. I would say if you're looking at visual analytics, though, we used to break down a lot of different factors. I think at one point we had 72 different points. We went nuts with this stuff. We were like really into it.
That's maybe like geek level into it.
It is because then we'd use that data to build specific templates to then have agents fill in the templates based on.
Okay.
So it was.
But that actually does get very interesting.
Yeah.
And then can you also take into account brand guidelines?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
So it was all based on that. Like, you talk about the 72 points that we had. It was like focal points. It was text positioning. It was text size. It was text spacing. It was the kerning. It was like how tight is everything together? Is there punctuation?
Oh,
Like there's a lot of different stuff. what was like basically we gave like the contrast a grade based on, color of the text versus color of the background, see how much it popped, see if copy even was necessary at all.
Yeah.
You get into so many different variables that you go a little bit nuts, but it was helpful because then when we'd have agents that build templates. It's all math, right? Like, so it's all math at the end of the day. It's like,
It wasn't my favorite subject in school.
Yeah. But it's like, oh, the text should be placed here in the upper left-hand corner because that's typically where we have the most, it should take up about like X percentage of the image. Like, we have all these different rules and variables. But that's what I said again was like when things work, they tend to always work, like how UGC just works. But it's really nothing's that new. You're not going to create a new form of UGC. Like there's no one, because I actually use that as an example, is that like AI in its current state right now probably would not come up with the idea of UGC. Like it would, if it had looked back prior to UGC, what was all advertising? It was high polish. It was highly produced.
Yeah.
Everybody was pretty. Everyone was perfect. There was no flaws. The lighting was immaculate.
Okay.
For it to say, yeah, actually do the exact opposite of that.
That's not going to happen.
Film it with a handheld camera, show my double chin while I'm sweating, walking down the street. Like AI wouldn't be, it never had any reference of that before. So it would never say, oh, that's the way that it's all going to go. You should do that.
So there is still some room for human ingenuity.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say so. We're the ones that create the mediums, we're the ones that create the trends, not that AI doesn't create the trends.
No, because that's also what I'm kind of wondering, because then you say like, oh, we have 72 different metrics that we're looking at because it's been a little crazy.
We did go a little overboard.
You go, you're crazy. It's fine. But what I'm wondering then is like, okay, you do that based on data that you have from that particular time period. But of course, as time moves on, maybe it's a different kerning that suddenly gets excited, has that stopping power. So does your AI still connect with whatever is new then, or?
Yes, 100%. We're continuously feeding new stuff into it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we also have to take, like I said, there has to be a built-in variance or else it's just going to end up being the same.
Yeah.
Right. So we have to build like the randomness so we get the randomness in the output so that it doesn't listen. Right, like it breaks the rules a little bit naturally within like a certain deviation of the guidelines. Yeah. But that's often what finds the new directions. It's because the stuff that always works. It never like absolutely blows it out of the water. It's not like the revolutionary one, right? It's like the ones that stay at like 75, 80%, which is like where you want, everyone would take that, but you never get the 100, right? So it was sort of like a learning experience for us. We just create new problems, right? Always with the AI. It's like we solve a lot, but we create new ones.
Nice.
And then it's like we have so much content. How do we curate it now? How do we look at building another tool to curate? I think
that's one of my next questions, actually. Yeah. Because when you have that many, when you just have that much data to work with and that many problems to deal with, like how do you go about that, to be honest?
We just create new problems for ourselves, right? It's like...
And then new tools to fix that problem. And then that will create something new. And it's like a never-ending cycle. And it's like the snake biting its own tail. And
that's the thing. There's no playbook right now. Like no one's written it. There's not like, oh, this is how you start a franchise business. Like a franchise business has like essentially like a model and a playbook that you can go and do if you wanted to. Or just like, how do I open a fitness studio? Like there's a playbook for that. There's not a lot of playbooks on this stuff because everything's new.
It's so new, and there's so many of them as well. And then, like for myself, I also find it so hard to like find what is the one that I'm gonna use or that's gonna be useful to me. I mean, we've talked about this earlier as well because my role specifically is a lot more focused on people. Human connections and just trying to coordinate that, and I haven't figured out yet how I'm going to automate that, but you've already given me some tips that I'm going to talk about later. But so another thing that I've actually been wondering about is when it comes to tools, when does it make sense for a brand to build its own AI tool versus using an existing one, because there are so many, as you say?
Yeah, I think it just depends on the level of complexity of the problem that you're solving. If it's something that requires the level of a really big SaaS tool or a really big, piece of software, might not be the best undertaking. But if you can do small things that are super tailored, like I always look at things more micro, because at this point to me, building complex is too risky. Things move too quickly. Next week, a tool will come out and make that easier. So if you spend too much time building something that's really complex, because I've had this problem. When we built the agents, we built them before a lot of these new models came out, and we had such a complex system, and it was awesome. But once some of these tools came out, it eliminated like 8 steps. So it was like, well, now we have to go redo the whole infrastructure. So I think building like small and lean, the same way building teams is probably going to be more effective that way now too as well, so that you can just quickly maneuver and adapt them.
Yeah.
But finding the right areas, because I think probably the biggest problem that people have is not being able to find the problem. So it's like problem identification.
Yeah.
They might think it's one thing, but it's really the other thing.
It's so true.
Yeah.
So true. It had like literally in life, I think that's actually a thing.
Most likely. Like I said, that was one of the things we talked about earlier was like, oh, we're getting a lot of feedback on our copywriting. Our copywriters might be bad, but it turns out they were getting briefed poorly. It turns out the briefs were actually from another separate problem that was happening. So it wasn't necessarily the copywriting. It was a couple steps upstream.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, when I always see like something hasn't been performing well, my first instinct as someone who's client facing is always briefing.
Yeah,
because
always.
I've literally learned like 90% of cases where something isn't performing well, like it's the brief. It was a bad brief and something went wrong there.
Communication.
Yeah, communication. Like
always.
Shit in and shit out. And you need to like start there. And that's why I really always feel like you have to put so much time and effort into those first steps, because that's what gets your train moving, you know?
That was one of the things that we solved really early was the brief. Not solved briefing, but helped that process, because we could see that it was the better anyone got a more robust brief, the better the product came out.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I find
isolated variables. Yeah.
So I find it super interesting that so many of these tools are all about like producing visuals and producing copy, etc. And I'm like, are you dealing with the root cause, the first thing that you start with? Probably not. But okay, well, it's definitely something that we talked about earlier as well, where that's more like a process operational change within agencies. And I think that is hopefully the future for many of us.
Yeah.
I am dreaming already.
We just want to create. I think that's it. At the end of the day, we just want to make stuff.
Yeah, we just want to make stuff.
Not reports, though. Sorry, everyone.
No, but it's true. It's genuinely true. Like the amount of time that sometimes I just lose on things that I could be doing other stuff it's ridiculous. Wondering something about the future. Do you think every e-commerce brand will have its own creative automation layer? Something kind of like a custom engine behind the ads?
I think majority will.
Okay.
I don't necessarily know how effective that's going to be. Like I see that, in terms of like what like Meta's been promising, like this self-automating sort of like ad creation from your product catalog for a long time.
Yeah.
We've built similar tools. Like I said, there's always that same problem of like everything.
It's why we built the tool that I started with, because that one actually, it works for different platforms. It works on Meta, it works on Google, it works on all of that, because like, my team member also mentioned like, oh yeah, there's one for Meta, there's one for Google, but then, you can't use them across one another. And that kind of loses its effectiveness.
Yeah, I just think there's going to be probably like this middle ground where there's a lot of people that'll use it. They'll probably be the cream rise to the top that still do the traditional production routes and make things that are different. Because I think that's what we're doing. Like, I think that's what always sells, no matter what, is just different.
Yeah.
You see like what Liquid Death does, like their whole marketing strategy, just be weird and different. And it just like, it catches your attention. They have great brand positioning and they have a really great brand strategy, right?
Be weird and different.
I mean, you see it. It's just, what haven't I seen today? Like, and you look at, I could not tell you the difference between like 99.9% of the skincare brands. They all do the same stuff. It's like, no, I never see anything that really blows my mind or that hasn't been done before.
Yeah.
So to me, it's all sort of like gets lost in the, lost in the same like puddle of like.
I get that.
And you see products that are more like available in e-com than most. Like it's like supplements, it's skincare, it's those two specifically seem to be in like there's 200,000 skincare brands or something like that. So
ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're going to be in that crowded of a space, how are you going to win outside of, having really good performance? Because you have to have market penetration if you don't have brand value like Sephora or something like that. So yeah, it's interesting. I just hope we don't all go to those self-automating systems.
Yeah.
Not without a human in the loop to say like, let's try something else.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it needs to still be like interesting enough to, to have that stopping power again, because you do indeed see the same thing again and again and again.
Over and over and over. And then it's like before and after. And like, yes, we get it. Because it works though.
Yes, it works. And also sometimes you do get like kind of like the algorithm also kind of learns things about you. So I'm gonna give you a little admission and you're gonna laugh.
Okay.
Yeah? Okay.
All right.
So I get a lot of advertisements for AI boyfriends.
Oh, interesting. That's a new one.
I get a lot of
What's your search history look like?
So this is where the algorithm comes in, right? So I get a lot of advertisements for this, and depending on my search history, the guy changes.
Huh.
The guy changes.
It's like, you're searching like Portuguese things this weekend?
If I'm like, I watch a lot of K-dramas. So if I watch Korean dramas, he turns Korean.
It's
hilarious. If I'm watching like, I don't know, some country rock, something, whatever show, then he becomes like this lumberjack guy.
All right.
It's hilarious.
That's very
But it's
curious.
creepy, right?
It is, yes.
Can I say that's creepy?
Yeah, I don't know if I like that.
It's weird.
It's weird knowing how it works and then knowing that it's happening to you in the moment.
I mean, it's happening and I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel a little bit violated every single time as well.
And there's so many of us that are in like the marketing space overall, I think, just in general. And it's like, we all see stuff and we know what everyone's doing most of the time. So when like something really catches your eye too, you're like, that's pretty good. Like, that's, I'll buy.
I haven't bought yet because I'm like, my ego cannot. I'm like, no, I have limits. I have standards.
It has to be real.
Yes. Please, God. So anyways,
that's a good one though. I like that.
I'm glad that you liked it.
It's fun.
I'm glad.
Great story though.
Yes. Love it.
Actually sounds like a campaign that could be run somewhere along the line in some way, shape, or form.
I mean, it probably is. And I feel a little bit violated. I'm a little bit like, bruh, I'm trying to like, because also even like on dating apps, so I even get commercials for dating apps. Fine, I get that. But now they're even like weirdly about like men in uniform, for example, because I watched the cops.
Okay.
And I'm like, what?
Wow. Doing great market research, I guess, or whatever, or pulling the right market data. That's impressive.
But where are you getting
I don't know.
Because I do not click the thing where you say use my data. I'm not clicking that thing. I'm saying no.
That is
a
little scary.
A little bit scary. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Okay, I have another couple of questions actually. Let's walk away from this AI boyfriend there. If you had to rebuild an e-commerce marketing workflow from scratch using AI, what would it look like? Your dream workflow. Like, this is it.
I know what I want to say, and what I want is like this crazy system. But like at the end of the day, like I don't know if I want a crazy system. Like I don't.
You don't know.
I don't
want
know
the crazy system, but you're not sure you want the crazy system.
Because I've seen what the crazy system is.
Okay.
And I've seen how awesome it is, but then I've also seen how quickly it gets outdated and how much work it is to redo it. So I'd rather have like little micro systems that sort of all work together. Okay. And then if I'm building sort of like micro agents for micro tasks, like if I was building a little team. And then I'd probably want like a project manager that can handle that from like an agent standpoint and have some sort of either inbound request or like auto feed request, which is like basically building in either insights or sort of ideas or briefing. And the project manager is going to each one of its little agents and saying, who does this, who does that, talking. Okay, you do this. Okay, you do this part, you do this part. So it'd be like easier to swap like micro agents than it would be to build like this whole system.
Yeah, because it gets outdated and then you have to redo it, and actually that doesn't make sense.
And you kind of want them a little bit specialized. right? Like you want them to be a little bit more specialized than just like this giant system that runs from this ding, 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 ding. The longer the chain is, the easier it is to break.
So would you do it then different for every single e-commerce brand? Because you say you want it specialized. You mean like, so depending on...
Probably like an agency. It's like you have someone who can handle, it's just like a specialized, if you're a creative, you're not just a creative for one brand. Like you're a creative for this. So if you're a copywriter, you're not just a copywriter for one. And so thinking about it more, so it's weird. It's like applying human skill sets to like agents, which I don't want to get rid of people, but I want to make sure that we can really use the tools in a way that actually like works. Like you realize the team structures that have always worked kind of always work. So it's interesting that when you end up building agents, they sort of end up looking like teams.
I have a weird question about that, actually. So you say that you've really grown because I actually watched a podcast about you when I was in Portugal on my holiday, because I was like, I need to prep for this. And then I saw, oh, damn, this man is very good at what he does. But appreciate that. But I saw as well that so you had a team where I think I saw a podcast where you mentioned that you guys got a gazillion different requests every single day, and you had to figure out a way to automate that because you guys basically scaled too fast, if I can say.
That was a problem.
That was a problem, and that's why you automated stuff. Now I'm wondering, have you still been able to grow your team, or has it actually not grown because you've just replaced it with AI?
Well, I actually left the agency world to go more so into doing what I'm doing now, which is I like staying nimble, but at that point we were hyper scaling for no reason. Like we were just doing it because we could, essentially. And we were marketing and sales. We were great at it. We could bring that in, but when it came to the operations, that's where we failed, and that's where our team started to hate us, because it was like, well, just adding clients, and it's like, who's going to do all this?
Yeah.
And I was like,
absolutely.
I don't know, but we're growing the business. It's like, it was kind of like us being young and naive about that. But
I mean, I think every person in an agency has gone through that.
Yeah.
Every single person.
Yeah. Well, there's also, to me, diminishing returns at that point. Like, how big do you actually want to be? The bigger you get, the more problems you have.
True.
The smaller the margins get, actually, the more people you hire. You can still only do so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
The more clients you have. So, like, if I'm talking about it from the, ownership and operations side, like, the bigger we got, we actually, there's a certain diminishing returns after about 70 to 80 clients. And it was like, we're just adding more clients and not making much more money. So
then
why are we just adding to add then? So
that doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry if that went off track a little bit.
No, that's fine. I mean, I asked a question.
There's a lot of pain in those answers.
I can hear that. That's why I'm like, slowly moving on to something else. I mean, not even slowly. Let's do this about, I've got a question here about, how do you measure creative performance in an AI-driven setup? What metrics matter most? Because you talked earlier about your 72 lovely things that you were looking at, which, let's say you have to say these 5, if I can't have anything, but I have these 5 I want.
In the e-commerce setting?
Yes. I'm going to make you choose 5.
I'm just going to choose one. My number one is conversion rate on your pop-up window on your website.
Okay.
That to me is like that's the breaking point of everything. It's like, it doesn't matter if you're running great traffic.
Yeah.
Right? If you're running great traffic, it can't capture anything for email. You're missing out on a significant portion of revenue. And if you're not capturing people there, you're also not making email revenue, because you're not adding to the list and you're emailing the same people over and over and over again.
Okay.
Don't have people going through core automation. If you're not, you're going to burn out your campaign list. So like that little linchpin right there, that's my metric.
Okay.
And I was always like, if we can get people to the site, cool, but now we have to do something with them.
Yeah.
So like that little pop-up window optimization, I would say typically, if you came in and that thing was between 0 or like 0.3% and maybe like 2%, there's a lot of room for opportunity. And typically that's the easiest way to enhance the entire growth of the channel, which is optimizing one metric. Because if you turn that from 1% to 2%, that's
already a big change.
And you're driving any sort of traffic to the site, that's going to send more people through automation, which typically have a pretty static percentage of what converts on the back end, welcome flows, abandoned cart, things like that. Then also you're just going to have new bodies into the email system that are going to get campaigns. So It's like that to me makes the whole thing run.
Nice.
And then we also used to use AI to work on those pop-ups a lot to kind of figure out which ones are going to work the best. A/B test, move.
I mean, I want to say I hate pop-ups.
We all do.
We all do.
Yeah.
But then there's also some of them that I'm like, yeah, okay.
If the offer is good enough, you'll take it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I really like the ones with the spin the wheel.
Yeah, that was definitely a good trend for a long time.
Love this. I mean, maybe it's a little bit outdated by now, but I used to still get them. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I want to spin the wheel. I want to see what I get.
Yeah, once you did it like 20 times and you're like, I only get 10% every time. It's like, this thing's rigged.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, absolutely. But speaking about maybe numbers and what you get for your money is how could AI help forecast campaign performance before media spend even goes live?
It's a good one. I mean, there's a lot of variables in that. It's really, I mean, you can run basically like audience simulations. It's all based on previous data though, and there's so many variables that go into it, like based on new stuff. So, a quick meta algorithm reset can turn all that data into nothing. So it's hard to me. It's really hard to predict. I think from a visual standpoint, understanding what's worked before, like static visual or video from that standpoint, it's probably your best way of like future prediction of success, or at least within like a certain like standard deviation there.
Yeah.
But
got your benchmarks that you know like that's going to work approximately in that way.
Especially something that new to me, it's just like a total wild card. It's like, let's do our business projections for the entire year, and you're like, yeah, totally, that's going to be 100% on at the end of the year, right? Like it's going to be exactly what we said it was. Which it's
always the tricky part with clients as well, because they want targets. They want like we want to reach this, and we have to like sometimes say, okay, that doesn't seem feasible with either the budget that you have or with the type of campaign that you have, or even the audience size. Like recently I had a campaign and they really wanted to push it live, and I was like, well, we don't have a large enough audience size to kind of warrant this kind of budget. So thank you for willing to spend this money, but I mean, we're going to have to find something else. Yeah, it's not going to be on this channel. We're going to have to put it somewhere else, or we're going to have to change the campaign somehow. And that's also something really crazy, how clients can sometimes go, oh, with this kind of media budget, we're going to be reaching, supposedly this target.
Yes.
So if we double it, we'll reach
Totally. Yeah.
And I'm like, no, that's not how that works.
Definitely doesn't. It's too hard to predict. Like, I'm sure we'll get there with the advanced sort of analytics that are going to be, or predictive analysis that these tools are going to be able to do.
Yeah.
Currently, I think you have to be asking the right questions and really formatting the right sort of plan to get the most out of the tools. So I'm sure there's tools that I know there's a couple tools that do like audience simulators and things like that. It's blanking on me right now, the one that we've used before or I've been sort of recommending. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it's probably not going to come to me at the moment.
It'll come to you.
Yeah, but it's essentially an audience simulator. Same thing.
Yeah,
like you're testing audiences with creative and
yeah,
utilizing your previous metrics, and it's better than what you can typically do with just like ChatGPT.
I mean, that's like the main AI that I use.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, it's still the most useful one, I think.
It's one of those things. You get someone who's an expert in the field and knows there's a problem. And knows they need to solve it. And there you go. Build a tool.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's always like build a tool. But yeah, like you say, it has to be for micro things, really. And that actually makes a lot more sense. I'm thinking, do we have time for one more question? I'm just looking. 40 minutes now. Okay, then I'm going to see if I can maybe find a nice way to end, because I think we need to wrap it up. Yes, I think so. But thank you so much for coming here, for spending all of your time when you actually should be working, because I know you're going back to your hotel room and still working. So thank you so much for being here today and sharing your wisdom, sharing your knowledge. And I look forward to meeting you again sometime, because I need you to help me change some of our business here as well to like optimize some of the processes that we need.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. Good convo. Glad we got to talk e-com.
Yeah.
I got
it's your love for that. It's your passion, And
it'll never change. So
that's okay. That's good. I will not tell your wife this.
That's all right. She knows.
Okay. Well, good. Happy marriage. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, and see you next time.
All right. Thank you.
And that's facts. If you take one thing from this conversation, let it be this. You don't need to be the biggest player in the market to outsmart and outperform. If you're ready to stop playing by the giant's rules and start writing your own, we're here to help. Visit us at fightclubagency.com/pact to get packed with the full show's notes and download our one-page strategy blueprint. Or follow us at Fight Club Agency on Instagram for our daily tips and tricks. Until next time, for new insights on how to outsmart and outperform.